invited me here, he said I could talk as long as I wanted to. But for a political junkie, that's usually a mistake, because I can talk at lunch and go right into happy hour. I got too much respect for happy hour to do that. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Dick Billing, and I have the honor of being the chairman of the Clallam County Republican Party. So what follows, of course, is not necessarily the views of the party, but my opinion. And those who know me know that I believe everybody has a right to my opinion. So, as Don says, election season's coming up, and he asked me to come in and chat about some of the candidates and some of the issues. And this usually happens to me long around election time. People who are not really informed call me and ask me how they should vote. And I tell them. So that probably means I vote early and vote often. I may be turned into a Democrat. But since I'm going to give you my opinion, I should tell you why, sort of, I have one. And it's been formed by over 35 years of living in foreign countries. Usually places that nobody else wanted to go, doing things that nobody else could or would do. Places like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Cambodia, Vietnam. The thing I came away from that, most of those places, the people didn't have a government. The government had a people, and it's a big difference. So I'm very concerned with government overreach that arbitrarily restricts the right of citizens, and I may be a little more sensitive to it than others. I also have a lot of libertarian in me. I believe I should be able to do anything I want to do, so long as it doesn't stop you from doing what you want to do. If I'll leave you alone, you leave me alone. You're free to try to attempt me to make a decision, but don't try to force me. Now, obviously, there's got to be some restrictions. You have to stop at red lights, go on green, drive on the right-hand side of the road. You can't pump your septic tank into somebody else as well. However, society does need infrastructure, but those restrictions should be minimal, necessary for the interaction of society. And so while my personal position is influenced by my history, I don't think I'm as right-wing as most people would think. I think that I notice our county leans center-right on most issues. Most of us either own or carry guns. We like our wells and the ability to use the water as we see fit. Most of us place the welfare of people above that of fish. However, we frequently elect people that lean to the left. And so we get a lot more government than what we want, or at least what I want. Especially the federal government. There's some 5,000 federal laws, which is with as many as 300,000 regulations that can be enforced on us. And a new enforceable law is enacted on average every week. We probably break several laws every day without even knowing it. I'm sure that this is not what our founding fathers envisioned. So what do? We, and that includes you, have to carefully assess who the heck we're voting for, who we're electing, and we have to vote. Just remember that you may not have an effect on the elections, but the elections have an effect on you. So, and maybe we can't affect too much in Washington, D.C. or indeed Olympia, but we can affect change here. We have a voice locally, so we have to use it wisely. We have to check on who's running, what they stand for. Good source of that, I think, is the Republican website, but there are other sources. But just be informed. But since I'm up here, I'm going to talk about a couple of my favorites. One of them is Jim McIntyre, running for his second term as county commissioner. Jim has been in the news lately. Both good and bad.
Can't seem to stay out of it.
But the thing I like about him is he was able, in concert with his fellow commissioners, to effect a tax cut. Not just a tax delay, an actual tax cut. Sales tax has gone down under Jim. Not by much, but it was a first. Olympia didn't know how to do it, or even it should be done. And they damn sure didn't want to do it, and they pushed back. But our county commissioners, with Jim at the front, managed to push back hard enough, and they made it happen. As a result, not only did our Board of Commissioners win, but we as a county won. So, if you think that you pay enough taxes and would like to reduce them a little bit further, I would consider voting for Jim. tax cuts, in my opinion, are a good idea. Just remember, the more of your money a politician has at his disposal, the more he's going to spend. Spending, of course, reminds me of Governor Inslee. He was scrabbling around trying to raise taxes, or as he charmingly refers to it, as increasing revenues. But nonetheless, whether it's a sales tax, carbon tax, an income tax, it still comes out of your pockets. You have to remember the government has no money except what it extorts from you. And forget that line about corporations paying taxes, because they don't. Corporations do not, have not, will not ever pay taxes. They view it as a cost of doing business, put it on their spreadsheets, line item, and pass it on to the customers. So if you need proof, remember what happens the next time they raise taxes on cigarettes, alcohol, gas. You don't see the company saying, oh, we're going to go broke, we can't afford it. They just pass it right along. And for sure, Mr. Inslee, Governor Inslee, likes the idea of an income tax. Implementing such an income tax, a first-time tax, is like being a little bit pregnant. You started something, it's simply not going to stop. So beware. But back to the local people. Connie Bouvet, am I right? She's running for Port Commissioner, a job being vacated by the retiring John Calhoun. She's a local businesswoman, successfully runs several companies. But one of her many claims to fame is her success in pushing back against the continuing overreach of the Department of Ecology. That alone will secure my vote, and hopefully yours. Remember, ecology is staffed by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats who are determined to help you, no matter how much it hurts you. Brandon Janice, not here, Swim City Council. Brandon's a young man. He brings leadership, experience, plus a youthful outlook to a city casually referred to as God's waiting room. Maybe it's time to look to the future and elect somebody that has one. John Miller, running for Swim City Council. He notes the dramatic cost increases in services. Water and sewer up 150% in the past few years. He wants the city to live within its means. He wants the city to budget like a family does. What's not to like? So remember John Miller's name. Jim Russell is running against Candace Pratt. I guess I'd opt for Jim, who I don't know, because he's not Candace Pratt, who I do know. Will Payne for Swim School Board. He'll take a conservative viewpoint. We know he was a very conservative prosecuting attorney. He will look that, and besides that, he's got kids in that system. He's got skin in the game. And further, he understands you don't fix problems just by throwing money at it. So I think he's a good man. Remember Will Payne. Over here in Port Angeles, Lonnie Lynn's running for re-election to PA School Board. Lonnie Lynn is the institutional memory for the Port Angeles school system. I tell you, he has forgotten more about our schools than most people will ever know. He fights a losing battle a lot of times, but he still fights it, and we need him. And if you ever want to have an interesting speaker, invite Lonnie Lynn to your affair and ask him to speak candidly, and then stand by. First timer Susan Schonifer. You know, Susan's a teacher. She's got years of teaching experience, and she's going to bring a practical vision to the school board. School boards are important. That's where we mold people. That's probably one of the most important elected positions we have. Sean Ryan for Fire Commissioner. Actually, Sean is going to run this thing like a business. He's a businessman. He knows how to run businesses. He's got a profit and loss statement. He was in fact speaking earlier today, and it was amazing how much equipment that they buy that they don't use. It's just unbelievable. So consider Sean Ryan. There's several uncontested elections but I'm not going to address those people because some of them I like, some I don't like, but you know, if they're uncontested, they're probably a shoe-in. You know, if they lose an uncontested election, they probably deserve to. Still on the local scene, we have some issues that need your attention. As you recall from Sue Ford's previous presentation here, Clallam County is one of 7 counties that has a county charter, which is like a constitution for the county. And it's under review this year, and there's going to be a number of items that may appear in a ballot or you'll have an opportunity to comment on. One important one, I think, is whether we have the Director of Department of Community Development remain as an elected position. Some people would like to have it appointed. Well, I think that appointed positions usually result in a long, drawn-out, very expensive recruiting campaign. We'll probably bring somebody from out of the area, and they will come in and they'll be unfamiliar with our history, our comfort, our culture, and they will try to force their opinions on us. I like local control every chance you can get. I want to keep, if somebody's going to be making me dance to a tune, I want to be able to pick out some of the music. So keep it local. Several other items that might be on the ballot. 5 commissioners instead of 3. You know, we've managed quite well with 3 commissioners, especially now. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's keep 3. Elect commissioners by district. You know, that would mean that the people in District 1 would have the final say on who's the commissioner from District 1. I can see advantages either way, but you know, again, I default to local control. So I think I would like people in District 1 or District 2 or District 3 to elect their commissioner. Again, that's my opinion, and we already know about what I think about my opinion. Remain a charter county or join the other 32 counties and subject ourselves to the whims of Olympia. You know, again, I like local control. We can't go against state or federal law, but we can certainly have laws here that make sense to us. Convene the county charter review every 4 years or every 8 years. You know, I like 4 years. 8 years is a long time. Things happen in 8 years. So I like to keep our county current. Coordinate rather than cooperate with other government entities. Now this is going to be interesting because, you know, there's only a couple letters that separate coordinate from cooperate. But in practice, it's a huge difference. It really is. Coordinate means you work together. Cooperate's got an air of force about it. And if you don't believe that, coordination is like the Seahawks offensive line. Everybody's got a job to do. They work together. They advance the ball down the field. That's coordination. Cooperation is when the policeman pulls you over and asks you for your driver's license and insurance card. You're going to cooperate, or he's going to make you cooperate. So again, there's force involved. I like coordinate. But let's see, for another full explanation of all these things, you can get a synopsis from, again, the Republican newsletter put out by Sue, or the website, or for the true junkie, check out the YouTubes that are put on by Stephanie Hoagland. Stephanie does a terrific job, and I'm sure she'll be happy when this is over and she can reclaim her life. But nonetheless, thank you, Steph.
Thank you.
So looking a little further afield, out of our area, Bill Bryant, Port of the Seattle Commissioner, will be running for governor in 2016. I think he's an ideal choice. He's a businessman. He'll run our state like a business. Much different thing than the way it's being run now. So I would suggest that you keep him in mind for a vote, maybe even send him some money, because I sure am going to. My sore points, Mr. Van de Weeg and Theringer will probably be running, and I haven't seen anybody that stepped up that would consider competing against them. I have hopes, but we'll wait and see. Lastly, in case you don't know it, there's a presidential election coming up next year. We have a crowded field. There's so many people that threw their hats in the ring, we might have to get a bigger ring. 2016 should be the name of the year, not the amount of Republican candidates for office. So, it's probably too soon to get too excited about the runners, but I do like Wisconsin's Scott Walker, who's managed to govern very successfully in a deep blue state. And he survived a couple of recalls orchestrated by the unions. General rule of thumb for me, if the unions don't like somebody, I generally do. So, I also like Texas Rick Perry, who's been an economic success, created a real bandwagon down there in Texas, doing great, and I think he has, in Texas, managed to create more jobs than Obama's been able to lose in the rest of the United States. I tend to think that governors have a better grasp of the job, so I like governors, although I remember a governor not so long ago from Georgia who maybe proved the exception to the rule, Mr. Carter. But the best thing about 2016 is that President Obama will not be elected. I will miss him, in a way. You know, he's presided over a 75% increase in firearm sales since his 8 million in 2008, 14 million in 2013, and 2014, 15, 16 aren't even in the records yet. I think he may be angling for a job with the NRA after he's on it. And he's been pretty good for Republicans too. Both House and Senate flipped to Republicans under his tenure, and we now have 31 Republican governors as opposed to the 22 when he first assumed office. Maybe we want to keep him in office another couple of years. He may be a stealth weapon for the Republican Party. So, I guess that's all I about have to say. So, I'm going to stop. And if you have any questions, and I know the answers, I'll respond. If I don't, I'll probably just give you a dumb look.
Any questions or comments from the floor? Oh, come on.
Good, I love it. Yes, sir.
Do you have any suggestions of getting people out to vote? How would we get there? Every time I hear a report, is only 20% or 40% response. It's just dismal. I just can't believe it.
You know, I don't think you can drive voters to the polls. I think you have to attract them somehow. Meetings like this will do it. I think things have to get really bad before they get good again. We may be there. It's disgraceful. It really is. I've seen places where people would die to have a chance to vote, and we have to be practically driven to the polls. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
Education missing somewhere.
And I think that word is very important. I mean, we all had civics in school. We all were told the importance of a vote. We all studied the Constitution. You know, they don't do that anymore. No. You know, there's too much emphasis on stuff that doesn't make any difference. Truly, we don't know how our country works anymore. We don't. You know, you can. I asked a friend of my girlfriend's daughter. She was talking about school and civics, and she says, I said, who's the first president of the United States? She said, George Washington. Who's the second? Dumb look. No idea. So we're losing that history. We're losing track, and that's why school boards are important. That's why you think about Will Payne and Lonnie Lynn. Sorry.
It's all purposeful.
Susan Schotterford.
Don't take me into conspiracies. Further questions? Bob Ford is uncharacteristically silent.
It is. It is. Well, seeing as you baited me. Well, I thought this would generate a lot of questions from the floor. I'm really surprised. Water.
Maybe I answered them all.
You answered
You
a lot.
can't rule that out. Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned my videos. What do you think about the city working on getting a public access television started?
I think the more transparency, the more knowledge we can put out to people, the better. I have to wonder how many people will use it. You know, committed junkies. I'll be on it. But we need to get information out to the people. I think that's a prize venue to do that. And how does that work? How's that going to happen?
So there's been 2 organizational meetings so far regarding Port Angeles public access. Dr. Ralph Smith has agreed to chair this startup. He is a psychologist. Edna's a part of this. He helped to start the public access television in Boise, Idaho. So he's got a lot of experience he's going to bring to this group. So we're looking for interested parties who want to meet and help start this group. We need to develop a board of directors, which should have some, city, county, school board, people who really want to have access into this. What will this do? Public meetings, sports, garden club, the animal shelters. They can all have shows on this access channel. So it doesn't mean it's just going to all be public meetings. It will be Clallam County, what's going on. Edna, you want to add to it?
What we're trying to do right now is looking at the neighboring counties and cities that do not have this, and see if we can put them all together. Then that way you're gonna get more content, you're gonna be able to have live football games and baseball games going on. And so far, it's falling together pretty well. They only have 5,500 people right now on Wave Cable, so that's why we said we should expand it. And I think it's going to be much better. It has no control. The city has no control over any content or neither would anybody else. So the people would have to say what's on there and what's not should be on there.
It will be internet streaming as well as the TV access. So if anybody's interested, that next meeting is 10:30 next Saturday at the, what's the building called? Port Angeles Business Center, the one right across from Jack in the Box. So 10:30 there. It's that yellow building.
We have it on YouTube. Okay.
Well,
All right, a venue, just a venue like that would be perfect, just constant message, get out the vote.
get out the vote.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's nice you won't have advertisers on it.
yeah. The only problem that people like, that the audience is going to attract is us. We already know we're supposed to get out the vote.
Well, not necessarily. If you have live sports on there, we are going to get people
Okay, maybe
from
you're
their
right.
vote to it just like the rest of us. And I think it's a good choice.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'd like for you to stay for our business meeting. I generally don't make a comment, but I want to make one comment on that item that you come up. So there's always a first time. You can write that down in your book. Robert made a comment. Anyway, you mentioned hiring and people from within. And I think this is a very important point at our level, down where the county government is at. And after all, this is where your politics start, is right here. I've had a little bit of experience, 6 years total with all the odds and ends with the sheriff's office, and 18 years on the civil service board. 90% of that was as a chair. I don't know why, I just kept falling back into it. And but the thing that I wanted to impress on you and expand on what he said, hire your people from within.
Right.
And vote your people from within. Why? Because they know the territory. And I learned that at a very fine early age as a sergeant in an infantry squad. You picked your people from what you had because they depended on you and you depend on them. And make sure that you get the right guy. You don't reach out and, if you're a box company, and snatch somebody down from E company. You do it with your own people. If he is impossible to train him to do what he's supposed to do, fire him. And that's why we have elections.